family gatherings were never fun for me. They were just something I had to go to twice a year, Christmas and my mom's birthday. It was more of a chore than a celebration. This year, though, I decided I was done putting up with it. I'm the older sibling, and my younger brother Bryan has always been the golden child. He could mess up big time, and my parents would still defend him. Meanwhile, I got in trouble for little things, like getting an AO instead of an A. Bryan is 34 years old and still lives with my parents. He's never kept a job for more than 6 months, and he doesn't pay rent, buy food, or help around the house. My parents take care of him completely. On the other hand, they always lean on me, whether it's borrowing money, fixing their house, or listening to Bryan's drama when he gets dumped. But this year, I decided enough was enough. I was done being their backup plan, so I sold my house and made some changes in my life. When I arrived at the family gathering, I could tell something was up. My mom looked really happy, and Bryan had this smug smile on his face. During dinner, my dad nudged Bryan, and Bryan stood up and said, "So, Mom and Dad decided I should move into your house." I just looked at him and calmly took a sip of my drink. "That's funny because I sold it last week." Then, I handed him the papers to prove it. Bryan looked shocked, my mom went pale, and my dad nearly choked on his drink. "What?" my mom said, stunned. "I sold the house," I repeated, "and just in case you tried something like this, I brought proof. That's the finalized sale contract." Bryan looked at the papers in horror. "No, you can't do this. I was supposed to move in," Mom and Dad said. "Mom and Dad don't own my house," I replied, "and neither do you." My mom started crying. "How could you do this? Your brother needs a place to live." I shrugged. "He's 34, he can figure it out." Bryan tried to argue, saying I could just buy another house and let him stay there in the meantime. I laughed. "You seriously think I'd buy another house just so you can have a place to stay? That's ridiculous." Finally, my dad spoke up, saying I was selfish because Bryan wasn't as successful as me. "Of course not," I replied, grabbing my coat, "because you two never make him be, you always bail him out," and I left. The next few weeks were great. Bryan threw a fit and even went to the house I sold, only to find a retired couple living there. He made a scene and got kicked off the property. My parents called, demanding I fix things. I blocked them. Then, other relatives started messaging me, saying things like, "Bryan is homeless because of you," or "Your parents are heartbroken," but I ignored them. Eventually, Bryan ended up sleeping on my parents' couch, right back where he started. As for me, I took my money and went on a long vacation. I had no plans of coming back anytime soon. But the nightmare wasn't over. I thought I had finally escaped the mess, but my family wasn't done bothering me. A week into my vacation, I got a call from a blocked number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Where the hell are you?" It was my mom, sounding furious. "We've been trying to reach you for days." "Mom, I blocked you all for a reason. You can't just. Do you know what you've done? Bryan is suffering," she yelled. I put the phone on speaker and went back to sipping my drink, enjoying the ocean view. "Oh, really? What happened now?" "He got kicked out," she said with a dramatic sigh. "Kicked out? From your house?" I asked, confused. "Yes, he messed up, and we had to ask him to leave. And it's all your fault," she accused. I almost laughed. "How is it my fault you kicked him out?" "You forced him into a bad situation," she snapped. "Okay, what did he do?" I asked, already knowing it was probably something bad. There was a pause before she admitted, "He maxed out all our credit cards. We told him they were only for emergencies, but he just kept spending." I couldn't believe it. "Wait, you gave him credit cards? How dumb can you be?" "Don't talk to me like that," she yelled. "Then stop acting like I owe you something," I shot back. She took a deep breath. "Look, we need your help. Your dad and I are struggling with money. Bryan has nowhere to go. You need to fix this." "No, you need to fix this. Just let him stay with you," I replied. "We can't, it's too much." "Well, that's not my problem, and good luck finding me, because I don't live anywhere you know anymore," I said. "What do you mean?" she asked, sounding genuinely shocked. "I moved, and you're not finding out where." Then I hung up. I thought cutting them off would be easy, but Bryan wasn't giving up. First, it was endless calls from unknown numbers and emails from fake accounts. I ignored them all. Then things got worse. I got a notification from my bank that someone tried to access my account. I quickly changed all my passwords and tightened my security. The next morning, I got an email from my realtor asking to confirm a change of address request. I called her immediately. "What request?" I asked. She explained someone had called pretending to be me, asking for my new address. They even knew some of my personal details, but my realtor got suspicious when they couldn't answer a security question. I knew right away who was behind it, Bryan. He was so desperate he was trying to hunt me down. I was done playing nice. I unblocked my parents, and as soon as I did, my mom called. "What is wrong with Bryan?" I demanded. She acted offended. "Why are you so mad? You haven't spoken to us in weeks." "Oh, you mean the weeks where Bryan tried to steal my identity?" I said. She went silent. "Yeah, you heard me. Tell me why your precious son is trying to get my private information." "He wouldn't do that," she argued. "Oh, really? So it's just a coincidence that someone tried to get into my bank account and find out my new address, right after I cut him off?" She sighed. "He's just desperate. You left him with nothing. His life is falling apart, and all you do is make fun of him." "No, he ruined his own life," I snapped, "and if he keeps this up, I'm calling the police." "The police?" she shrieked. "Yes, I have proof, so tell your golden boy to back off, or he's going to jail. Please, just talk to him, help him one last time," she begged. I took a deep breath. "Fine, put him on the phone." There was some shuffling, then Bryan's smug voice came through. "Oh, so now you want to talk? I just want to know one thing, Bryan." Silence. I leaned in. "What were you going to do if you got my address? Show up and demand I give you my new place?" He said nothing. "You really thought I wouldn't fight back?" I laughed. "You always thought I was your safety net, that I'd always save you no matter what. Well, I cut the net, so if you fall now, you're hitting the ground hard." "You think you're better than me?" he hissed. "No," I said calmly, "I know I'm better than you," and I hung up. I thought things would finally settle down, but 3 days later, a friend texted me, "Hey, I saw something weird about you on Facebook, thought you should know." My heart dropped. I opened the link. It was a public post from a shady-looking account filled with lies about me. It said I abandoned my dying parents, stole money from them, and left them to suffer while I lived a fancy new life. People were eating it up. The comments were full of outrage. "Disgusting. How could someone do that to their own family? I hope they lose everything." Then I saw who shared the post, Bryan and my mom. They weren't just mad, they were trying to destroy my reputation. Honestly, I wasn't surprised. My family always played the victim and twisted the truth to make themselves look innocent. But this was worse than usual. It wasn't just a Facebook rant, they were calling my job, contacting my friends, and even reaching out to my ex. People were messaging me nonstop, confused and angry. "Is it true? Why would you do that to your own family? Did you really steal from them?" I was furious. This wasn't just drama anymore, this was a full-on attack, and if they wanted war, I was done playing nice. I spent the next few days gathering proof. I saved messages from Bryan trying to harass me for money, screenshots of him trying to steal my identity, and proof that I had never taken anything from my parents. Actually, they had taken from me. Then I hired a lawyer, not just any lawyer, a ruthless one, the kind who loves cases like this. We sent a letter to my parents and Bryan, demanding they take down their posts and stop spreading lies about me. I thought that would scare them into stopping, but instead, Bryan went even crazier. A week later, I got legal papers in the mail. My parents and Bryan were suing me. They claimed I caused them emotional distress, financially abused them, and left them with nothing while I enjoyed a rich lifestyle. I sat there, staring at the papers, trying not to laugh. They had no case, none, but they thought I'd be too scared to fight back. Big mistake. The first hearing was a disaster, for them. Bryan showed up in a cheap, badly fitting suit. My parents sat beside him, fake crying. Their lawyer looked like he'd only taken the case for the paycheck. My lawyer tore them apart. We showed proof that I never stole a thing, the harassment messages from Bryan, and the attempt to steal my identity. The judge took one look at everything and said, "Are you serious?" The case was thrown out. Bryan lost it. "This isn't fair," he yelled. "She ruined my life." The judge glared at him. "Sir, if you don't calm down, you'll be held in contempt." Their revenge plan had failed, but I wasn't finished. The next day, I sued them back, for defamation, harassment, and emotional distress. Bryan laughed, thinking I was bluffing. But then the court ruled in my favor. I won a lot of money, and because my parents had co-signed Bryan's debts, they were the ones who had to pay. My mom begged me not to take the money. "I'm your mother," she cried. "Please, don't do this. You should have thought about that before you tried to destroy my life," I said. She screamed at me, called me heartless, but I didn't care. I made sure I collected every single penny. Bryan was broke. My parents were financially ruined. And me? I took my money and moved on. Months later, I got an email from Bryan. The subject line read, "You win, but you should know something." I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. It said, "Mom and Dad lied to me, too. They told me they set up an inheritance for me, that if I waited, I'd be taken care of. They never saved anything. I was supposed to get the house, your house. That's why they wanted you to keep it, so I'd have something. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Then he added. They're deep in debt, not just from the lawsuit. They owe money to bad people, and now that they're broke, guess who those people are coming after? I felt my blood run cold. I knew my parents were bad with money, but dealing with dangerous people? It looked like this mess wasn't over. After reading Bryan's email, I just sat there, trying to process everything. My parents had lied to everyone, not just me, not just Bryan, but everyone. They weren't just bad with money or greedy, they were in big trouble with dangerous people, and if they couldn't pay, someone was going to get hurt. I had two choices: walk away and let them face the mess they made, or find out just how bad things really were. Against my better judgment, I decided to find out. It didn't take long to uncover the truth. A few calls, some records pulled, and the facts hit me hard. My parents owed over $100,000, not just to banks or credit cards, but to loan sharks. And Bryan? He wasn't the only one who messed up. My dad had a gambling addiction. My mom had been covering for him for years. When their money ran out, they started borrowing. When the loans weren't enough, they made promises they couldn't keep. Selling my house was their last hope. They thought they could rely on me forever, but now, with nothing left, someone was coming to collect. 2 days later, Bryan showed up at my door. I didn't even know how he found me, but there he was, messy, desperate, and scared. He looked nothing like the arrogant jerk I grew up with. I need your help, he said. I crossed my arms. Why would I help you? His hands were shaking. Because if you don't, someone's going to get hurt. For the first time, I saw real fear in Bryan's eyes. They came to the house, he whispered. Mom and Dad thought they could talk their way out of it. They were wrong. What happened? I asked, feeling my stomach twist. Bryan swallowed. They trashed the place, took everything valuable, left a warning. What kind of warning? Bryan pulled up his sleeve. His forearm had a fresh, deep bruise. They told me if they don't get their money soon, next time it won't just be a warning. I took a deep breath. So, what? You expect me to pay their debt? Bryan shook his head. No, I want you to help me take them down. I didn't want to get involved. I had worked hard to get away from my family's mess, but this was different. So I did what they never expected. I went to the police. I handed over everything: the fake lawsuit my parents filed against me, the identity theft attempt, the fraud, and proof of their massive debts. Then, I tipped off the loan sharks, not with money, but with evidence. I showed them how my parents had hidden their assets and lied to everyone. Within a week, my parents were arrested for fraud, tax evasion, and other debt-related crimes. They had been scamming people, lying, and borrowing money they had no intention of paying back. And now, they were going to prison. Bryan had a choice to make. He could keep running, or he could finally grow up, and for the first time, he did the right thing. He testified against our parents, helped the police uncover every scam, every lie, and every debt. It didn't make everything okay, but it was a start. Bryan got probation and community service, a chance to start over. My parents were sentenced to 5 years in prison. Bryan started putting his life back together, and me? I was finally free. No more phone calls, no more lies, no more drama. I was at peace, and for the first time in my life, it felt really good. The end.